I'm Melissa Fettig. I'm from Burlington, North Dakota, and my son Joshua had COVID in March of 2021. Well, Joshua started getting sick in mid-March. We went into the ER because he was having shortness of breath and high fevers. And so they did a COVID test and it came back negative. He continued to feel ill for a while and they kind of treated him for not like he did not have COVID. And he did start to get better for about a week. In the beginning of April, he kind of had a turn for the worse and started having spiked high fevers with short of breath, lethargic, fatigued. We took him to the emergency room and they tested him for COVID and he came back positive. From his chest x-ray, they determined he had severe COVID pneumonia.
He was admitted to the hospital after they realized that he needed to be on oxygen and his oxygen levels were horrible. So he spent the night in the hospital. The next day, they arranged a flight to University of Minnesota's Children's Hospital. They flew him out because he was too critical. They knew he needed to get the best care as soon as possible. Only one person was allowed to go with him based on the policies they had in place. My wife made the flight with him, and it was torture to watch your child be wheeled down the opposite hallway. Then I had to go to exit the hospital, and I couldn't be there to support. I felt helpless, like never before in my life. The guilt, even though it wasn't my fault, the guilt was overwhelming.
I've never had to go through anything that really hard without, my husband or my mother or somebody in my family with me. And so I felt scared and alone and responsible to make sure that I brought him back home. So the flight was really hard. It was hard seeing my husband not be able to get on the plane with us. And I knew that he wasn't going to get to come to the hospital with us. And I guess the hardest thing was not knowing if Jesse was going to get to see his son again, if he wasn't going to make it. He did continue to go downhill even after we got to University of Minnesota Children's Hospital, and they kept adding more forms of oxygen support to him, and to the point where he was getting the max that you could get before being intubated. We spent days just on the edge waiting for him to be intubated. His oxygens would stay somewhat stable on the highest flow of the high flow oxygen, but at times he would start dipping below, and they would prepare us for him to get intubated, and they would try different things to get him to loosen up and increase his oxygens, and he would perk up a little bit.
Once Joshua did start perking up a little bit, we did do messenger, social media type, FaceTime, whatever. I don't know what they were using, but so I was able to actually see him via telephone, and that helped. But the first few days, not knowing the outcome, and waiting for the phone call for an update. But every time the phone rang, you didn't know if you wanted to answer it.
He was on lots of antiviral medications. He was on a lot of steroids. He was on a lot of things to keep his body calm, so he would allow the machines to breathe for him. The respiratory therapist would tell us, to imagine that the machine that he had on his face was like putting your head out of a window going 60 miles an hour. That was breathing for him. It was pushing in that much force to open, keep air flowing into his lungs.
Once he was able to get out of bed, my wife helped him to the window, and we were able to at least, wave from the floor, from the ground.
He finally started fighting it off, and over days we were able to start removing some of the oxygen support, and we were able to go home.
I'm Joshua Fettig, and I'm a freshman at Minot State University. My thoughts and feelings have changed drastically since I've contracted COVID. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have back before, but I still took it, seriously. I wore my mask and such. I didn't, retaliate against that. But after I contracted it and after I made it out, I definitely was more cautious about what I was doing. It really made me think about, how precious life is and how easily, you could lose someone to something like this. If there's too much I could have done differently, but if I had, access to the vaccine just even before I got sick, I don't think I would have been as in critical condition as I was.
When I was able to see him for the first time after he recovered was when my wife brought him out of the hospital, and I was waiting to eagerly get him home. And I felt relieved. The weight came off my shoulders. I knew he was gonna be okay. So it is very important, if you can, to get vaccinated. Don't take the chance and think it won't get you.